You're listening to Fringianity. Hello, welcome to episode 80 of Fringianity. This episode is going to deal with something not very many people are talking about, that being why it's a fringe topic and a fringe show. So I'm going to get right to it, but the topic is HARPA surveillance, future now. That's all going to make sense by the end of the show, but just keep an eye out for the name HARPA and red flag laws, because we're going to deal with that and gun rights being taken away and all that stuff on this episode. So with that, let's get to the scripture and start the show. Psalm 2 through 5. Conspiracy against God's people. Why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bands asunder, and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. The reason why I chose that scripture was just because it really ties into a lot of conspiracy. It shows that the kings of the earth conspire against God and his people, and that God is in control in the end. He's laughing at this. He's letting them have their will and their way, but in the end he's going to judge them. So that basically is what that scripture is talking about. And there's a great conspiracy against God and his believers, the people that truly seek God. And I say that because there's going to be a clip here I'm going to be playing next, a news segment that talks directly about conspiracies and how you're a domestic terrorist if you question 9/11 and, talk about Pizzagate or stuff like that, where you try to tie in, talk about Hillary Clinton, how she might be, Arkanciding people, or, stuff like that will get you put on a list for becoming a domestic terrorist, according to the FBI. And the way that the mainstream news talks about this is it's kind of a joke. You're a joke if you talk about any kind of conspiracy or anything like that. But that means if you really talk about conspiracy, where's the line? Can we not have investigators investigating crimes now? Because they might be investigating a conspiracy to commit a crime by somebody? You see what I'm saying? Where is the extent? Oh, I know where the extent of this goes. It goes to those crazy conspiracy nuts that talk about 9/11 was an inside job, all these type of things. And then they always want to tie these things to, oh, you believe in UFOs, tinfoil hats, and Bigfoot. It's like, well, not everybody in those categories are lumped into one big group. But this whole show is not going to be about conspiracy. But I'm just showing you that there's a big system that's all the pieces are being put together. And it's like all these laws and all these, this thing that's coming up, I'm going to be talking about HARPA and red flag laws are all going to work together to take the guns, and then they're going to take the people, the people that are considered mentally ill or not right, or whatever, or considered a domestic threat to society, whatever that means. And that also means if you hate something, you could be labeled a terrorist too, a domestic terrorist. Now, I understand you could hate something that is bad, but it all is in the eyes of the beholder. In this case, the government is the one who judges that. So what if the government decides that your rightful hate is wrongful hate, and now you become a domestic terrorist? That's the purpose and the point for talking about all of this, and for analyzing this great deal of conspiracy nutcase stuff. So now, that being said, I'm going to play this news clip where you basically are made fun of if you ever, talked about Pizzagate and pedophiles in high elite places. You're basically a conspiracy nut, and you could be a threat to society. So listen to this.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Our big story on 12 News at 6. The FBI is warning for the first time that French conspiracy theories are feeding domestic terrorism.
Now that warning is coming from the Bureau's Phoenix office. And here's one example. A bizarre claim that the Clinton family was behind a Tucson site where children were being raped. Team 12's Bram Resnick has more on the warning and Arizona's connection to it. Bram?
Yeah, the fringe theories, the FBI says, fueled a shooting at a Washington pizza restaurant and the mass murder at a Pittsburgh synagogue. Here in Arizona, there wasn't any violence, but the incident was very creepy. This was a sinister rape den for children, the videos claimed.
I think the little space in the bunker was used to keep children quiet.
The Clintons and the Jewish Rothschild banking family both had a hand in this Mexican-owned bunker in the Tucson desert. That wild conspiracy theory, alleging a massive cover-up by law enforcement and government, is one of several singled out in this intelligence bulletin from the Phoenix FBI office. The bulletin, first reported by Yahoo News, marks the first time the FBI has labeled fringe conspiracy theories as a domestic terrorist threat. The bulletin goes on to warn these conspiracy theories will likely increase during the 2020 presidential election cycle.
We take domestic terrorism or hate crime, regardless of ideology, extremely seriously, I can assure you.
Arizona's connection to the new FBI alert, a reminder of the state's link to the worst domestic terrorism attack on American soil.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
The 1995 federal building bombing in Oklahoma City. 168 men, women, and children perished.
They would blow things up out in the Arizona desert.
Bomber Timothy McVeigh, an angry veteran who declared war on the federal government, planned and practiced the attack with an Army buddy in Kingman, Arizona.
We sent SWAT team up there. We sent a bunch of investigators initially.
Former FBI agent Kenneth Williams recalled how he cracked the case, showing McVeigh's buddy images of the Oklahoma City dead, many of them children.
He pushed away from the table and he said, "What about all the kids you guys killed in Waco, Texas?"
The Phoenix FBI office declined to comment on its bulletin. Now, Agent Kenneth Williams, who you saw in that story, has yet another terrorism connection. In July 2001, Williams wrote the so-called Phoenix Memo, warning that Osama bin Laden was sending potential terrorists to aviation schools here in the U.S. The memo was largely ignored, and 2 months later, bin Laden attacked America using our own aircraft on September 11th. Let's send it back to you.
So let's see. It's going to, this could increase according by the 2020 election. So what's that mean? You have to silence everybody who has a conspiracy around the 2020 election? I don't understand. Is that why they're censoring everybody on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and everything? Oh, they're going to use conspiracies as a way. The FBI is part of this. Okay, so what you're saying is they see what they're doing. They're trying to make it look like they're trying to stop you from voting for Trump. So of course you vote for Trump. You know, that's how that works. It's a backwards type of thinking. But yeah, this is my personal opinion. Is they're trying to make it, you think that they're trying to stop you from voting for Trump so that you vote for Trump. But Trump, I think, has been starting to listen to a lot of the New World Order type agendas, and he's pushing things forward that I like to say, and I know a lot of people hate me for saying this, but if Obama did some of the things and said some of the things Trump is saying, holy crap, there'd be people flipping tables and going nuts. But when Trump says them, it's like crickets. And then people get mad at you and say, "Oh, you're anti-Trump." And it's like, well, no, I'm not anti-Trump. I'm just telling the truth. The truth is not on a side. The truth is the truth, okay? But just listen to this this is what Trump said back after the Florida school shooting. This is what he said back then about the guns. Listen to this.
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Well, in the category, you've spoken about it, Mr. President, gun violence restraining orders, they're called. California actually has a version of this, and I think in your meeting with governors earlier this week, individually and as a group, we spoke about states taking steps, but the focus is to literally give families and give local law enforcement additional tools if an individual is reported to be a potential danger to themselves or others. Allow due process so that no one's rights are trampled, but the ability to go to court, obtain an order, and then collect not only the firearms, but any weapons in the possession of that individual.
Or might take the firearms first and then go to court, because that's another system, because a lot of times by the time you go to court, it takes so long to go to court to get the due process procedures. I like taking the guns early, like in this crazy man's case that just took place in Florida. He had a lot of firearms. They saw everything. To go to court would have taken a long time. So you could do exactly what you're saying, but take the guns first, go through due process second. But take the guns first, go through due process second.
Take the guns first and go through due process second. Can you imagine if Obama said that? How many Republicans would flip tables when that happened if Obama said that, right? But Trump says that, it's just like nothing. And this happened a while ago. This was after the Florida shooting, the Florida school shooting, or whatever. You see what's happening? And every time these shootings happen, just pop, they just pop up out of nowhere. Whenever anybody wants to get some gun laws passed, there's a shooting. And recently, there's been like 3 in a row or whatever. There's just endless amounts of shootings that pop up. It all happened right around the Epstein case and all that stuff. But you see what I'm saying? It's just, it's becoming more prevalent in the news on purpose so that, oh, wait, I shouldn't say that. I'm a conspiracy nut. I'm a domestic terrorist now because of what I just said. Okay, so here's a domestic terrorist saying, wait, there's a reason for them to take the guns if there's more gun violence, right? So it would benefit them to have more gun violence and more people dying so that they could take the guns. And what happens in every society when they do take their weapons? They usually come in and have some kind of control and try to take over micromanage everybody's life in some sort of way, right? Adolf Hitler did this. Everybody has done this. Stalin, all these people, they take the weapons and then they shoot the people in the head who are the people that are not likable, You see where this is going? So I don't know if I don't think Trump is the person that they don't want. I think that they're using him. They're letting him just, fall for something because of whatever. And, these bills get passed, and it's not like these bills took one night to write. These things have been written for a long time. They're like 5,000-page bills, and you tell me that they wrote that overnight because there's a shooting? Are you kidding me? The Patriot Act, they had that thing ready to go before 9/11, and all of a sudden 9/11 happened, and here we go. We got this thing all ready for you. Thank God we got the Patriot Act. They had it ready to go that quick? My God, they only investigated 9/11 for 3 freaking weeks. So, whatever. But my point is, this is conspiracy talk. Oh boy. But if you question anything, if you question Trump, or you start thinking that maybe he might have turned, or he might start working for the New World Order, or maybe he's deceived, I don't know. If you question anything, the great Messiah Trump, the chosen one, cannot be questioned. He's God's man. But if God chooses leaders, didn't he choose Obama then? Didn't he choose the Bushes? Didn't he choose the Clintons? I guess he chose them, but I didn't hear anyone saying prayers then. I didn't hear anyone saying prayers when Obama was in office for President Obama, because he's God's chosen man, right? You can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, Trump's the chosen one, but Obama was the Antichrist. Okay. Whatever. If God chooses the leaders, then God chooses the leaders. Maybe therefore your judgment, maybe Trump could be used against you. Maybe God intends him to be the person who gets everyone on board, and then they all start worshiping him, and then he turns on them. Oh boy, then we'd be in trouble, wouldn't he? But in the end times, it says there will be great deception, that even the elect might be deceived. Are you part of the elect? Are you able to be deceived? I think you are. So could I. Everybody could be deceived. We could all be deceived. So don't anyone get on their high horse and tell me, oh, yeah, Trump is untouchable. He's our man. Anybody could be, any of these people in government, we don't personally know them. We don't know what's going on, okay? So they could be good, they could be bad, but most people in Washington, D.C. are totally corrupt, taking a paycheck to do something criminal. So, with that, listen to this.
So you know how over the last 10 years we were bombarded with scandal after scandal of big tech corporations spying on us and selling our data? Remember how nobody really gave a damn? Remember how we continued to clamour for the latest iPhone, the latest smart home assistant, desperately rushing to fill the void of meaninglessness via the voracious consumption of products, completely blasé about the fact that we were literally complicit in creating the kind of surveillance dystopia that would make George Orwell scoff in disbelief? Yeah. Well, it might be time to start giving a damn. All that information you've been gleefully handing over to the guy who once literally described you as a dumb for doing so will now be used against you. The same social credit score system that has already restricted millions of Chinese citizens from buying plane tickets, train tickets, purchasing property, sending their children to private schools is coming soon to the good old US of A. In many ways, it's already here, thanks to our progressive overlords in Silicon Valley. Patron Scan runs your ID through a database when you enter a bar. If the system decides you've been a naughty boy or girl, you're not getting in the bar. Insurance companies in New York are now basing premiums on social media posts. That Instagram selfie of you eating a bucket of cheese fries might end up costing you big time. Major fundraising sites are kicking off creators for their wrongthink. Uber has banned conservatives for their offensive tweets. Airbnb has refused service to people for their online activity. Conservatives are being banned from entering entire countries because of their views. PayPal, which is taking over numerous credit card processing companies, bans people for their political opinions. They just banned Trump supporter and Floridian Jacob Engels right as Hurricane Dorian made landfall. Very pleasant people. Major banks are terminating customer accounts because of their political opinions. Imagine going to buy groceries and your card gets declined because some chicken neck in Silicon Valley didn't like what you posted on Twitter about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. No food for you. In China, citizens with low social credit scores are restricted from using dating websites. Now Facebook, as if it wasn't already a frighteningly gargantuan monopoly, just launched its own dating service, turning over private, intimate relationship information to a faceless, amoral corporation that spies on you, sells your data, and can arbitrarily ban you for expressing the wrong opinion. Marvelous idea! You just met the love of your life, but lost all contact because you were banned for posting a spicy meme. Merely appearing in a photo with someone Mark Zuckerberg doesn't like is enough to get you banned by Facebook. That's Chinese communist-style social credit score 101. Even if you just affiliate with a designated thought criminal, you get punished too. And if you think all this sounds like it was ripped straight from the plot of some nightmarish Black Mirror episode, that's because it was.
That's reserved for members of our Prime Flight program. You gotta be a 4.2 or over to qualify.
Oh, I'm a 4.2.
I'm afraid you're actually a 4.183.
Well, that's not my fault. Some woman dinged me down in the cadre. Can't you just...
I'm sorry, it won't let me book it without the correct ranking.
2 starts? 2 stars?
Wasn't a meaningful encounter. everyone is a little bit heightened and false because everyone's terrified of being marked down because the consequences of that are unpleasant. So it's basically the world we live in.
And now the Trump administration is considering a social credit score type program to restrict people from buying guns. They're talking about using Fitbits, Amazon Alexa and Google Home to monitor signs of, quote, neuropsychiatric violence. In other words, if Alexa, which totally isn't listening to and recording all your conversations, picks up some edgy chatter, no Second Amendment for you. So while his supporters are being banned by big tech, left, right and centre, the Trump administration is considering partnering with big tech to spy on Americans via their smart devices to deprive them of their basic rights. Thanks, Javanka! And it's not like any of this is a revelation. 5 years ago, under a project codenamed Weeping Angel, the CIA was already hacking into your smart TVs and recording your words. 7 years ago, it was revealed that Samsung smart TVs were recording people's conversations. Last year, a New Hampshire judge ordered Amazon to turn over 2 days of recordings from an in-home Alexa device. But they're totally not listening to all your conversations. Amazon already has the patent to use Alexa to detect, quote, an excited emotional state or a sad emotional state in your voice, then prescribe you medications based on that. Because Jeff Bezos really wants to take care of you.
Alexa, what is the CIA?
The United States Central Intelligence Agency, CIA.
Alexa, are you connected to the CIA? Alexa, are you connected to the CIA?
I warned that all this was coming 13 years ago. And they called me a conspiracy theorist. Dissidents will be stripped of basic life amenities, deprived of the right to commerce, imprisoned in a vast digital gulag, dehumanized, rendered destitute. Brave protesters in Hong Kong are literally ripping down surveillance cameras to express their opposition to all this. What are we doing? Wetting our pants in anticipation of the new iPhone because it has a slightly better camera and more battery life. At least in China there's still some semblance of a legal system that citizens can turn to as a redress for their grievances. In America, all this will be controlled by monolithic, unaccountable corporations who have blanket immunity. So when conservatives are left with no access to the digital public square, no right to travel, no right to own firearms, no right to bank accounts, no right to buy and sell, all because we suggested that there might not be more than 2 genders. At least we can comfort ourselves with the collective mantra. They're private companies. They can do what they like.
Okay, so I agree with most of what he said there, and it's pretty amazing. He's talking about a lot of the HARPA stuff that I was mentioning. And I know a lot of you are probably wondering, what is HARPA? Well, I'm going to have that. I'm going to play this. On the Hagman show, they talked about what HARPA is in detail, and it was pretty amazing, and it was so shocking that I decided I just wanted to use that clip, but it's a pretty long clip, but I felt like it was so important that I had to share it as well. And it basically deals with everything is listening to you in your house, all your technology, everything, and coming up your smart home, your TV, your refrigerator, your microwave, your toaster, your Fitbit, everything is going to be keeping track of you so that you will not have a chance. You won't be able to get health insurance. You won't be able to do this, that, and the other thing without that. The actual episode from the Hagman show that I actually got this from was Heard of HARPA? You Will. And it's with Austin Brower. He talks in great detail about it for a little segment for I don't know how many minutes anyway. And it's pretty powerful to think that this stuff is happening on Trump's watch, not on Obama's watch. And this is very Obama-style stuff that's happening. And Trump is considering it, and he thinks it's a good idea. So just listen to this.
Well, have you heard of HARPA?
No.
Oh. Neither have I, not until this morning. Something I've been researching. I've kind of heard the likes of this topic being brought up. but I really did some research on it. And ironically, this topic of HARPA, like DARPA with an H, didn't really come into fruition until 2017 and has really done nothing until recently, when Trump is now pretty much disgusted and saying that he is very, very interested in it. He said he's sold on the concept. HARPA, this is interesting, is referred to as the Health Advanced Research Agency Project. It's a project that basically was put forth in 2017 as a new federal agency, but it hasn't gone anywhere yet. It's waiting on presidential signature, where Trump is now basically last week discussed in a meeting that he was very interested in it. It is going to be modeled after the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. If that sounds familiar, it's because it is. That's what's referred to as DARPA. They're remodeling DARPA and basically coming out with a mirror concept of DARPA, but for healthcare, called HARPA. Okay, so people kind of go, okay, this is cool. Research and technology, research and advancement in the healthcare world. Yeah, but it gets really, really weird now. So this entire system was put forth as a proposal in 2017, and it's pretty much been sitting on the shelf waiting for the right time to get introduced. HARPA would have basically the director would be appointed by the president, wouldn't be elected, it would be appointed, and the agency itself would have its own budget. It would be its complete and total independent United States federal agency. HARPA would also commingle with academia and the private sector when developing new health-related technologies. Now, when you look at HARPA on the surface, on what it's been proposed as for the last 2 years, it's basically designed to be, like I said, the DARPA hand of the healthcare, to come out with this all new stuff relating to Neuralink, relating to biotech, relating to all kinds of different smart drugs, relating to psychological and basically psychiatric evaluation care, the whole 9 yards. This is going to be healthcare in the United States 2030, essentially, so to speak. This is what this program is designed to be and to encompass. Now, what's very creepy about HARPA is something that very few people have talked about, is it includes what is called a safe home project. Quote, that's the term, safe home project, which stands for stopping aberrant fatal events by helping overcome mental extremes. That's what it stands for. So you kind of go, okay, what is this supposed to be? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a 4-year project that's supposed to be upwards of $60 million and would use volunteers to begin with in an effort to identify what they're referring as neurobehavioral signs of someone headed towards a violent explosive act. That's what I quote. That's what they say in the article here. This article is actually from the Washington Post as well. They're one of the only mainstream outlets that even covered this. The Post notes that HARPA would devise breakthrough technologies with highly specific and sensitive issues for early diagnosis of neuropsychiatric violence, according to the proposal. Multimodality solution along with real-time data analytics is needed to achieve such an accurate diagnosis. Now, what does that mean in a nutshell? It means that they want to start monitoring the general population and start doing pre-crime analysis on them to determine if people in the civilian realm are going to reach out and start doing mass shootings or violent crimes. So they want to do neurobehavioral signals to see if somebody is going to commit a violent act. It gets worse. The proposal notes that there are several existing home use technologies that would be tapped into in order to collect the data necessary for this psychiatric evaluation. That includes Apple Watches, Fitbits, Amazon Echo, Google Home, and among many others that are these smart systems that we have grown accustomed to now in this country. They go on to say now in the proposal, and I quote, advanced analytical tools based on artificial intelligence and machine learning are rapidly improving and must be applied to the data, the proposal notes. While the initial data research phases uses volunteers, allegedly, of what they talk about, how can anyone be certain that this will continue to be the case if the project is fully developed and rolled out nationwide? And the answer is it can't. The first phases will be volunteers. The next phases will be incentivized. And then the last phases will be mandatory adaptation, meaning you will have to dial into this, whether you want health care, whether you want service as far as at a hospital, you're going to have to go into the system at some point if it rolls out. Now, because if this objective is to stop mass shootings and violent incidences from happening, which is what they quote and part of the HARPA initiative, before they happen, such a warning system would have to be deployed whether someone wanted to be part of the program or not. So in order to get this program off the ground and actually have it roll out and be effective in preventing violent incidences from occurring based on the psychological analysis of the subjects, the only way to do so is it would have to be nationwide, every single person in the country. So essentially what we're seeing now, if Trump signs this into law and he actually brings in a new branch of the federal government called HARPA, which will be essentially the mirror of DARPA in the healthcare industry, it will be used for the sole purpose of developing new healthcare technologies, monitoring healthcare technologies, and also producing what they refer to as safe home projects, is what I referred to earlier, which again, and I'm going to repeat this, will be an effort to identify neurobehavioral signals in someone headed towards a violent, explosive act through breakthrough technologies with highly specific and sensitivity for early diagnosis of neuropsychiatric violence. Meaning they want to use your phones, your Echoes, your Amazon Echoes, your Google trackers, your Fitbits, your Apple phones, your Apple Fitbits, or your Apple Watches to monitor you and determine if you're going to be a threat in the future and whether or not, obviously, they don't go into detail what they're going to do if you are a threat, which is ironic enough. I'm assuming that would lead over into the FBI's red flag gun law, federal law that they're trying to push now, where they can come in and say, hey, we deem you to be a threat. We've based this off your Fitbit. We've based this off your TV. We've watched what you've done. We also have listened to you on your Amazon Echo, and we think that you're a possible psychological threat to society. So we're preemptively going to send law enforcement to seize your weapons and possibly Baker Act you or detain you until we can do further evaluation and we can have further AI development and assess your situation. That is what HARPA is, and now Trump has blatantly said, they said Trump reacted very positively to HARPA's proposal last week, according to a person with the knowledge of discussion, and has been told that he is sold on the concept, as HARPA will be the healthcare equivalent of DARPA.
Wow.
Well, the Washington Post, like I said, brought the article to my attention on an aspect of it. I saw the article come out. I think it was about, about a week ago? Let me pull here. Yeah, it was like last week, if I'm not mistaken, the end of last week, because I've been following really closely to what's been going on with Trump and his comments based on the El Paso shooting.
Right.
You know, I talked about it on our show in detail on his references and his discussions that he talked about. And I've been talking about on our show how troubled I was on his response to the El Paso shooting and really what he said in discussions of health care and mental illness. He used those terms multiple times in reference to the El Paso shooting. And of course, he talked about the red flag gun law and everything else. And so I kind of, you got to take some of it as a grain of sand. Is he feeling the population out? Is he actually bringing things to light? Well, then when I started realizing that when the Washington Post brought this out and they kind of contexted it in HARPA being a good thing, but however, I'll give them credit. They didn't even pull any punches on directly what HARPA plans on doing. They were pretty honest about their proposal. And so it kind of troubled me. I actually pulled up HARPA, their website, and they really have masqueraded it as this really latest and greatest DARPA-style technology to go into healthcare. Now, we know that the healthcare system is being closely monitored for people. We know that doctors have been caught numerous times asking patients if they have firearms in their home. Are they agitated? Do they want to commit harm to somebody else? Blah, blah, blah. Finding out essentially if people have firearms. And so we know that part of the healthcare system's already been in place. And we also know that the social media aspect and the big tech in Silicon Valley has been instrumental at monitoring the population through the Amazon Echo, through the smart TVs, through the smart refrigerators, all that stuff. That's been going on for years. I've talked in detail earlier about how these apps come out all the time now on these phones, and you need to keep the apps turned off as far as the permission. Unless you need to use the app for something specific, turn the permission off. The microphone, the camera, your data, your text messages, your location, all that stuff is turned on when you give permission. So the big tech companies have already got this stuff in our hands. They've already got Amazon Echoes. They've already got these Google Homes. They've already got this stuff in the population of the people's hand in some cases. So what better way now to bring in a DARPA-style healthcare under the guise of the latest and greatest technology, intervention with healthcare modeled after DARPA, and then turn in and say, hey, we're going to do this to protect you. We're going to do this to prevent mass shootings. We're going to do this because we have to spot mental illness. As Trump blatantly said after the El Paso, we need to address mental illness. So they're using this now as the guise to roll it in and say, we need this HARPA protocol. We need this safe home protocol. We need to be able to monitor people, what they're doing in their homes, so we can monitor them for psychological neuro problems that they may have in the future, and we can deem them to be a mental threat. And then we can go in under the red flag gun law and confiscate their weapons. The issue is, Doug, and you know this as well as I do, almost everything we talk about now, according to the mainstream media and the hardcore leftists, we're already deemed mentally unstable, right-wing patriots, conspiracy theorists. If we say anything that doesn't go along with the narrative, we're pretty much completely and totally, deemed Looney Tunes. We've already seen that now. So now we're going to give not only the federal government the right to monitor us, to deem us if we are mentally defective, we're also allowing them to do it in conjunction with big tech to listen and spy on us so they can let us know if they think we're going to be a harm or a risk to society, and they can get us off the market, so to speak, if we are going to be a threat to everybody, and of course seize our guns at the same time. If this doesn't become, and this isn't what we have already talked about with the Orwellian nightmare of the social credit system in China, on a healthcare standpoint, I don't know it is now, because I'm sure this is going to tie into health insurance. It's going to tie into life insurance. All this stuff is going to eventually be tied into it, and they're going to incentivize it, as I said earlier, and then mandate it eventually. And what I mean by incentivize it is, a lot of people have probably realized this. When you get health insurance, I currently don't have health insurance right now. If I have an issue, I just go to Celebration Hospital, their 7-day Adventist hospital, and I usually negotiate the price down by about 75% if I have an issue over there, which is what I did 4 years ago when I had my heart incident. And so I don't have insurance anymore. I think it's a waste of money. I'm not telling people not have insurance whatsoever, because some people need it. But from my premiums, what I was paying is, $600-700 a month for the whole family with $5,000-6,000 deductibles was just something I felt like I would rather be better off putting that much money in silver every single month and using that as more of an investment tool and an emergency tool if I need to do so. That's my personal opinion. Everybody needs to make what's best for your choice. Going back to that, though, when we had Humana insurance, and the primary reason I got it was for the pregnancies for Lana, because if there was a catastrophic event, I wanted to have health insurance. Well, it was ironic because when we had health insurance for her, they were constantly sending her emails, because my email was on the account. They were constantly sending emails to her via my email, trying to give us options to get lower rates. And so I would click on the emails a lot of times because I was curious. I'm like, how do we get these ridiculous rates down? They're insanely high. Well, one of the biggest things they continue to push to me in numerous emails was that if we were able to go into the wellness program and we complied with all the wellness requirements, they would drop our insurance down like 20 to 30%. And I was like, wow, that's pretty good. Like, let's see what this is. The first one was basically showing that you were active via Fitbit usage or some other form of that. Well, I don't like a lot of stuff that monitors me or tracks me. I generally don't really like having my phone on me in most cases, unless I have to have it for work. unless I'm doing it for something specific. So I was like, well, that obviously is a big no right there. So let's see what else is. Well, then, of course, next one down is they said, and we make sure that everybody in the family, including the pregnant mother, is up to date with their vaccine compliance. So if you get all of your vaccines and you wear a Fitbit around, we're going to lower your insurance by 20 to 30%. Obviously, I deleted the email, and that was the end of it. I never complied with it. I paid the outrageous rates, and then I canceled it thereafter the pregnancy was over. So the reason why I'm saying this is what the HARPA program is more than likely going to do from what I'm reading on it. They're going to implement it with volunteer status first. That's what they're saying here in the article, the Washington Post. They're going to have people volunteer to get in it, to be monitored, tracked, and see how the algorithm and the AI can predict this. Then the next thing they're going to do is they're going to start giving incentives to healthcare customers. Oh, we're going to lower your healthcare rates by X amount, by 20, 30, 40% if you go into the Safe Home program. And a lot of people are going to go, oh my gosh, I really need cheaper insurance. Sure, why not? And they're going to say, well, you need to have a Fitbit, and you need to have an Amazon Alexa, and you need to have this stuff in your home. And that way we can just monitor how everything goes and your health and wellness. And obviously, too, we need to tie in your refrigerator because we want to see what you're eating in your refrigerator. And all this stuff will tie in, and we'll give you better rates. And of course, bulk of the population is going to submit to it, and they're going to go in with it. Well, once that program gets large enough and there's enough people in it, they'll start saying, now, in order to have health care, you have to automatically enroll in this program because, guys, remember, it's for your safety. It's for the safety of the kids. We got to monitor you, track you, and spy on you in everything you do because it's for your safety. And that is exactly how, from what I am reading here, they're going to roll this thing out so they can track and monitor everything you do in the privacy of your home under healthcare, under DARPA. Of all things, they're modeling it, mirroring it off DARPA. We know all this stuff they come up with all the time and all the crazy funding they get for the weird AI technology they're constantly coming up with. So we're going to allow them to mirror the DARPA agency and make a healthcare agency out of it. If the American population actually goes along with this and submits to this, this will be the fall of freedom in this country. I can tell you that right now, because as soon as this is implemented, if the federal red flag gun laws have not been implemented, they will make sure it goes into this program because they're going to say, we have to have teeth. We have to have teeth, Donald Trump. We have to have the ability to disarm these people if we deem them to be a psychological, physical threat to other people around them. So we have to have that going on. So this is what I wanted to really bring up today because nobody's really talked about it. It's kind of gone around a little bit in some of the alternative news. It's on the Washington Post, but it really needs to be something that gets brought up.
So that was really long and a lot of details. But I felt it needed to get out because the information is just too valuable. And it's true, this is a real thing, this HARPA. So please be careful and listen for that in the news or in whatever, in things that are coming. And also try to unplug from society because I think Christians specifically are going to have to start living like in the woods in the middle of nowhere after not too long from now, because this is going to lead to the mark of the beast, and you will be forced to submit to this, or you will be taken away or put in camps or whatever. This is literally a tyrannical, evil surveillance state that they're talking about, and Trump is getting into this, and he's starting to become all for this. So it's very scary. Whether you like Trump or not, I'm sorry, but this is something you need to take notice of. Because if Obama did this, you'd be flipping out. But you can't be light on Trump if he's doing this. You see what I'm saying? I don't care who's in office. If they do something against your rights, it's still against your rights. It's still wrong. And all this stuff is amped up because of these shooters and all this shooting stuff. You see how that works? It's called problem, reaction, solution. They make a problem, they know the reaction, and they also create the solution. So they herd you into it. And HARPA and red flag laws are going to be the solution. And that will be the death of America. So that's pretty much all I have. So thank you very much for listening.
If you like this show, please share it with your friends
promote it as much as possible before the internet censors us and takes down all of our content. Also check out the Fringianity Podcast Facebook group and page. New shows will be posted there, as well as show images. So check that out too. That's all for this show. So thank you very much for listening, and God bless.